So I just learned, which I don't know why this didn't occur to me, but if you haven't seen The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina's Teenage Witch, my opinions on it were pretty much just like, this is supposed to be fun and crazy and not a true depiction at all. So I thoroughly enjoyed it because I knew that going in. Other people weren't liking it because they were wishing for some witchcraft to be not as devil Satanist oriented, but I mean, quite honestly, I never have high hopes for that until I make my own show or something. We'll see. We need witches to be making stuff so that it'll get accurately depicted, but until then, meh. But apparently the Satanist temple sued Netflix off of the use of the Baphomet statue in the weird school for witches that they have in the show. And I was at first going like, what? How can they sue for that? Like they just, then I looked at it and I was like, oh no, you guys jacked that. You flat out took it. Straight up, the statue that they have the full copyright for was just jacked. Like, it's not like copy normal, it's like not in public domain at all, like you just flat out jacked it. And so I was like, yeah, no, it makes sense that they settled. Yeah, no, you just took their thing that they owned outright. Makes sense. But then this also made me start thinking of things like art versus religious symbols and like the crossing over of these, and then the idea of the free use and stuff like this, especially as an artist. I don't know, like there's certain symbols and stuff that I do, like when people make sigils and they copyright their sigils, and which makes sense because it's something of their own creation, imagination, etc. and so forth, art, like that makes total sense to me. But also the idea of like others using certain symbols, or when things become too much or whatever, basically like the things that are out in the open that everyone seems to be able to use regardless, is things that are old, like old as hell, like old symbols that are now in the public domain type of deal are totally up for grabs. Anyone can use them, anyone can adapt them just a little bit, etc. and so forth, and it's perfectly fine. And like part of the thing that the Satanists were Satanic Temple was talking about was that it's actually very disparaging the show. Like it was very over dramatized and creating more of a satanic panic, similar to what apparently happened in the 80s type of deal, which again I could definitely see, because yeah, the show's fun if you don't take it seriously. Any true depiction will not be found there. Beyond that, it did make me go, well, of course, why shouldn't they have the copyright? Why do I feel this weird feeling about that? You know, this, and it's interesting, this idea of owning, protective of not just the symbol, but like monetarily owning something, you know, feeling that something should be owed or paid to the person. It still kind of rubs me wrong in a way, which makes no sense, because as an artist, when I look at it artistically, it makes perfect sense. But I think it's still that old Christian-based, like, money is bad thing, and that's somehow rearing its ugly head as I think about this. Because I don't, like, for some reason that rubs me the wrong way, that someone would, like, if someone else took a symbol that becomes to a certain amount of popular and uses it in some sort of creative thing, then to come after them for copyright seems odd. But I don't know why it does seem odd to me. Like, logically it makes perfect freaking sense. That was theirs, their copyright, they had it created. Of course, especially given the depiction, of course they'd come and say, no, you did not ask us to use the thing, and now it's associated with us specifically, and it's not the best association if people are taking this show way too seriously type of deal. So I don't like it. That's an interesting like that's a bit of a shadow, I guess I have to envelop, because I wonder if I ever created a symbol that became hugely popular, whether it's a statue or a piece of art or, you know, I don't know, something. Like, I probably would get really mad, even if it was under a spiritual context. I probably would get frustrated if suddenly everyone just started jacking it and using it in their own creative projects. Like, from a personal artistic standpoint, that makes so much sense. But from like an organization standpoint, for some reason it doesn't make any sense to rub me the wrong way though. Sam, like, why? I don't know. I'm kind of just expressing my weird shadowy thoughts to you as they come, because it kind of shocked me. I was like, oh, wow, huh. And they totally won it, because it makes sense that they won. And, well, they didn't win. They had a settlement for probably undisclosed huge amounts of money, because Netflix. No. But the Sabrina Teenage Witch show definitely did well enough. It'll be interesting to see if if they did a settlement and then they got rights to use the statue again, to see if it reappears in the next season, or because I know they're already giving previews for the season 2, and I don't think I saw the Baphomet statue in any of the previews that I was aware of, but I don't know, it's very, very interesting. And I think this is part of the idea of the commercialism, or, you know, the mass marketing of certain things that could be associated with the craft, right? Like it's kind of the whole reason. Like, I'm mad that someone who created a thing in a spiritual context isn't getting paid aptly for it. Like that, like even with my shadowy thoughts, like when I really do think about it, it doesn't make me mad that they thought that they could totally just jack that symbol and use it, and no one's gonna come and complain. But then again, I can also see from the perspective where the showrunners would think, well, it's a religious symbol, just like the symbol for Islam, the symbol for Judaism, you know, David's star, or you know, the cross for Christians. Like, there's so many things that you can just use, because of course it's old enough, it's in the public domain, where so many things when it comes to paganism are just as old as that, if not, of course, older. But then there are other things that aren't. There are things like new things that we have come up with as Wicca has grown in popularity, and that aren't in public domain, that aren't old as hell, that aren't like universally known symbols, and to take them and use them when it's actually owned art is very, very problematic in a lot of senses, right? And I wonder how much that will change in we as a population of people who are into alternative spirituality and are, you know, exploring witchcraft grows. Because, and you kind of see it with the whole Sephora witch kit, like just the amount of people that had a reaction to it, whether you agree or disagree with whether it should have been run or discontinued, etc. and so forth. Like, the amount of people that had a reaction to it to a point where it got a major company like Sephora to pull it is very interesting, because given certain populations of people not all that long ago, and of course the idea of social media where more and more people can reach out and scream about something if they want to scream about something, like that says something. It says that we have enough of a population to make a difference, whether to the detriment or the benefit of the craft. Like, I remember too, there was a band, was it a band or was it a clothing company, I want to say in like Sweden or Norway or something, several months ago, was trying to copyright old runes, that like ancient ass runes, as part of like their design or something, and people were like, oh hell no, you don't get to copyright shit that's been around, like it's all of our ancestors, you don't get to take that stuff and use it as copyright. And they were trying to say like, well, we're just trying to copyright it so that no one else will copyright it, like we'll still let everyone use it, when everyone's like, no, you don't get to copyright something that's not your freaking copyright, sorry, that's free use for everybody. And so I also wonder about that then, if people are, you know, so worried about other people using and abusing a spiritual symbol, then do people who maybe don't actually have full rights to copyright it start copywriting something, and then it becomes an issue. And this idea of like the mix of artistic expression in spirituality, and then that being commodified and sold not by the person who is making it, and trying to protect that. Like, there's so many different layers to this that I think are kind of concerning, and, you know, it makes sense to peel back. And also then my own shadowy thoughts about it, because why shouldn't the person own it? But then also the idea of like owning a spirituality, who truly owns any sort of spirituality? Do any of us really do? I don't know. All your comments and thoughts down below. I don't even know if I have a truly formed thought about a lot of this stuff. Did you hear about either of these situations, lawsuit-wise, where Netflix was getting sued by the Satanic Temple, or the stuff? Have you heard about other situations where people are suing over religious representation, specifically with a symbol and use of copyright? Put all that down below. I find this topic kind of fascinating, especially how the courts in different countries have ruled on it, because that also will give a precedent to how people can use it and hopefully not abuse it in the future. Anyway, I make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.